Hey YouTube, so I don't really pay a lot of attention to all of the frontline news, but sometimes when crypto drops onto like a major news outlet like Forbes right on the front page, I stop and I pay attention and see what's driving that. More than that, when someone like Forbes drops the words bombshell on crypto, you really should pause and think, what the heck is going on? And in today's video, we're going to cover this supposed bombshell and why it's so important, and the rumors swirling that President Biden himself is involved in upcoming changes to crypto. Now, we know the market is going crazy. We have surpassed a $2 trillion market cap. Bitcoin itself went into 1 trillion again, amassing all kinds of value and growth. What's all this mean for crypto? Is it going to crash the market? Is it going to destroy crypto? Or will no real changes happen? Well, my friends, I'm going to give you some thoughts and opinions on all of this with the news commentary that is all abuzz and what's happening coming right up. All right, my friends, thank you guys so much for joining once again. Wes Spencer here. I'm really excited to talk about today's news. I really think this is something we should all be aware of and pay some attention to, but I also know there's going to be a lot of hyperbole going on. There's going to be a lot of people either crying foul and saying this is, everyone's attempt in the government to destroy crypto completely, or some people on the other end of the spectrum being like, this will have no impact at all. I happen to be somewhere in the middle, and so we're going to talk about today's news article around what's coming with an executive order, whether that's true or not, what the heck an executive order is, and we're going to even do kind of a tour of what's been happening in the regulatory space here in the US so we can get a better picture of what might be coming. Now, as we get started, if you have just found me, if maybe the almighty YouTube algorithms have sent you to me, hey there, I'm Wes Spencer. I'm not a moon pumper. I am just a guy that covers crypto. I am actually a technology startup entrepreneur. I have created and sold cybersecurity companies. I'm a cybersecurity nerd at heart, and I do this channel because I really love it. It's a great way for me to connect with you. I love talking about just building your own independent wealth, getting financial freedom and crypto and technology and cybersecurity and how all that, there's some Venn diagram out there somewhere where it all connects, right? So glad you're here with me today. And one thing I would love for you to do is, would you hit like and subscribe? That goes a really long way. You can hit the bell icon too if you want to be notified whenever I have content that is fresh and new. And by the way, memberships are out. I think they're over there. I always point the wrong direction. I would love for you to check that out. I don't gate content away, but it's just a fun way for you to connect with me, and would love to be able to do that, especially in a lot of the different ways that I have for live chats when we do those, or just even communicating with me in terms of some of the posts and some of the content when I'm looking and searching. I reach out to my community and my memberships first to say, what are you guys interested in me covering? So consider that if it's right for you. And lastly, before we get started, wanted to say thank you to today's sponsor, Celsius. I have been a huge fan of Celsius. I've covered them in multiple different videos. They call themselves unbanking themselves, right? And it's sort of giving power back to the people in the world of crypto. I've got a very special offer. It's in the description down below. If you put some investment in with Celsius using my referral code, you'll get something back. You can check that out down below. But just a shout out and thank you to Celsius for all of the awesome stuff they do and for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so let's jump right into some awesome, really awesome news. So we're just gonna start with the article itself. So I saw this trend in one of my news feeds, and it's from Forbes. We all know Forbes, right? Like, they're the biggest news outlet. Well, they're not the biggest, but they're one of the biggest news outlets that's out there. And look at this, executive order bombshell, the word bombshell. And then, as clickbaity as they know how to get, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, BNB, XRP, Solana, and Dogecoin are all braced for a massive earthquake. Why not all the other cryptos? Like, literally, here's what I think they did. They probably just went over here and like, what are the big ones? Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, BNB. Do you notice? The same thing. They literally just took like the largest market cap cryptos and just pasted them in there. Why? SEO rules. And here's the thing that really frustrates me. I'm about to go on a rabbit trail for just a minute, but I hate how SEO drives so much of what we do in news. And that causes problems, right? So you're going to see things like this where they're competing against all the other news outlets. So if they tag a whole bunch of cryptos that everyone follows, people are going to say, what's it about that specific crypto? Is the federal government like attacking BNB or Cardano? No, not at all. Like, it's not, they're just literally listing those for the SEO. And Welcome to today's news, where SEO and clicks drive everything, and that's where you get the sensationalism from. Okay, so first of all, let's start with this, an executive order. What is an executive order? So I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not trying to be a lawyer, but I will tell you this, an executive order is not legislation. Legislation is passed by Congress, but executive orders have the force of law with them. And every president from George Washington all the way to President Biden have issued executive orders. Now, many people take exception to them because it seems like an edict from a king. And we know that that is about as un-American as you can possibly get. However, all presidents have signed them and created them. And so when we think about executive orders, think about it as it's not necessarily bypassing Congress. Sometimes it's just the president using their executive powers to force change. And we've seen this in many cases. President Biden has signed a great number of them already. And there is rumors looming that an executive order around cryptocurrency is on the way. And that's specifically what this article today is all about. So let's just jump into that. Now you have some idea of what an executive order is. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about. So they talked about, yes, the price is skyrocketing. And I think this is what's scaring a lot of people in the commentary that I read is they're like, well, this is just the government's attempt with an executive order to smash it because they saw this bull run coming and crypto's going up and blowing up and they're trying to stop it. Here's the truth, my friends. Government moves too slow for things like that. Like, I've been in the government. I've worked with regulators. I've been in this space. If you don't know, I'm an old banker by trade, and I've been in DC and worked with regulators in my past. I know how they operate. They're too slow for this. This is just coming motions from a lot of things that have already happened. And we're going to give you a tour through those things so you can believe me in a minute. So I don't think it's about them trying to crush the bull run. I think it's more about this is just the next step in their evolutionary journey of how they're trying to get their hands on crypto. So we know that this is coming. We know that it's coming at probably a poor time. And I would say, depending on the significance of the legislation, absolutely it could affect this market. Absolutely it could cause this bull run to halt. But my gut tells me that's probably not what's in the cards. It's much more just around, hey, let's build a regulatory framework around this, and we're tasking ourselves to get to that direction, starting from President Biden, which gives the government the force they need to really get going. And I think if it happens that way, and it's very clear that it's not attacking crypto, it could actually make the whole market go even higher and even stronger. So, I'm okay with it, depending on what we see out of it. So, okay, so here's the news. Biden administration is weighing an executive order. So we've just talked about all that. Let's scroll past all of this. So it says it's still under consideration. Again, we're just talking rumors. This is all like, speculation at the national level. And so we can see some things that are kind of discussed around this, that it's particularly, the XO is particularly, going to make recommendations around crypto and how it affects financial regulation, economic innovation, national security. Now, one thing you'll learn when you talk to regulators from CFTC, SEC, FinCEN, a lot of these groups that are out there that have some amount of regulatory control from different aspects in the financial markets, they know crypto now. And some of them are more friendly to crypto than others. But I'll also add this point is they also understand, at least in words, is that they know that crypto is super innovative. And they don't necessarily want to just completely crush it because they don't want to stifle innovation. If you talk to them behind closed doors, they'll say, we think what it's doing is exciting. We know we have a lot of constituents that are interested in it. We just really want to make sure that we see it go in the right direction and we protect the financial markets around all of it. They're fearful of, the equivalent of a 2008 housing collapse, which I think is ridiculous. If, you talk about crypto causing something that's significant, or, all the financial crime that happens behind cryptocurrency, which as a cybersecurity guy, I will tell you, it's less of a threat than people think it is, right? So anyway, we know that they don't want to stifle innovation, but they do want to have their controls around it. And they want to get tax income out of it. And they want to make sure that people are not using it in nefarious ways. Okay, I guess I understand that. So the article kind of goes on around all of this, and one administration official told Forbes or Newswire really that if the XO is not released, then the U.S. Strategy for cryptocurrencies will still be made public. In other words, this is coming whether the executive order happens or not. And I could never tell you what's happening inside the machinations of the White House. Is Biden fully understanding of cryptocurrency given his age? Probably not. So is this something he's just going to sign and move on, or is he actually debating? We'll see. But this is clear that this is coming. And remember, if you haven't if you haven't seen this already, I actually did a video, and right here I'll put a link to it. It's around regulation in crypto, and I said in the video, regulations coming to crypto, get ready for it. We already see the things in motion, and this is sort of my follow-up video around all this as we're kind of unpacking this article. Okay, so let's move on a little bit more. Let's get to some interesting things here, right? So they talked a little bit more about what's happened in the past. They talked about the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack and how that was a big kickoff to, government saying, we're finally going to regulate crypto in a greater way. Well, let's go through history lane for just a little bit. What I'm going to do in just a second is I'm going to walk you through what's happened, starting with the Colonial Pipeline attack, why that was important, and then the ramifications of where we see the government motions in place and where I think that we're going to land. So let's do that real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share out this article right here from CNN Business. And this is just, you can read up on this more. And in today's video, we're not going to go into this, but keep in mind, I'm a cybersecurity guy. So I follow this very intimately. And I have friends that actually worked on this case. And what happened was there was a ransomware threat actor group called DarkSide. They attacked Colonial Pipeline. They got in through what's called a VPN, which was like they have a legacy. Think of a VPN as a way to connect in from remote locations to like secure resources. And Colonial Pipeline had an old, unused but not decommissioned VPN. And that was the source of the attack. The DarkSide threat actors got in, they ran ransomware everywhere, and unfortunately, Colonial Pipeline not only paid the attack, they paid the ransom, which was a multi-million-dollar ransom. We also saw effects from all of this. And many of you that are watching this video remember those effects. Remember when gas skyrocketed early in the summer? And you see like these pictures of people literally like filling up the backs of their truck with like some kind of inflatable like plastic around it, like with gas, because people panicked. They're like, oh no, the ransomware attack has shut down Colonial Pipeline, which there's some truth to that. And it rocketed the price of fuel up. And there was all kinds of consumer reaction. And here's one thing I've learned as a cybersecurity guy. A lot of times people don't care about cybersecurity until it affects their daily lives. There's another example and story of this. I live in Tampa, and there was a local Tampa water facility that got attacked out in Oldsmar. It's just a suburb of Tampa. And attackers were about to introduce too much lye into the water system, which would literally be poison and kill people before the operators of the water system realized that there was a bad guy in, and they stopped it. And all of a sudden, people in Tampa are like, yo, Wes, like cybersecurity, wow, that's a big deal. I could have been killed from this cyber attack, right? I'm like, yep, absolutely you could have, at least if your water came from the Oldsmar plant. So I've learned, it always takes these physical manifestations of cybersecurity to get people to care. And I say that to say, you better believe Colonial Pipeline kicked that off. And not only did it kick it off, they were so successful in the attack, they actually shut down after the Colonial Pipeline attack. They said, okay, the heat's on us. There's a lot of heat coming in from the U.S. government, and we know oftentimes the countries where these attackers operate out of. And in some cases, we even know who the operators are. We even know them as people, but we don't have extradition authority. And so sometimes political heat gets so harsh on the country of their origin that they just finally say to them, "You're going to shut down while the U.S. is on us." And that's what you saw with DarkSide. They completely shut down, only to come back later. Well, this was what the federal government needed to kick things in motion. This was the very thing that they were looking for to say, we want to regulate crypto. We just need to make sure that there's general population support among constituents to see this happen. And that's the truth. So let's move on and kind of take a peek at some of the things that happened soon after the Colonial Pipeline attack. So this right here is from Reuters. It was July 8th, just a few days after that attack, and also the big Kaseya attack as well that I'm not going to cover today, but you can go read on that. So two major attacks, all around ransomware, which typically has a cryptocurrency payout. And so then Senator Elizabeth Warren gets in and she warns on the Congress floor of cryptocurrency risks. And she says the SEC needs to have oversight authority. Well, that's interesting. First of all, Elizabeth Warren is not exactly a technologist, right? Not the world's biggest fan of her, but certainly will tell you that she doesn't know crypto. Like, that's not her thing, but she's seeing what's happening in the news around her, and she does what all politicians do. we got to regulate this thing. Like, we got to get our hands around all of this. So you see that kickoff in July. You see her say, we've got to start regulating all of this because it's getting out of control, you know? So you can go and read this article. I'll post all the links, of course, in the description. And then a few days later, just literally days after that, a week or two later, Treasury Secretary Yellen even herself introduces some comments, and she says we need quick adoption of stablecoin rules. And again, I covered in that first video on regulation, I covered why stablecoins have drawn the ire of the federal government, because the earning rates are so high in the 8%, 9%, 10%, because it sort of acts like fiat, because it's a bridge between fiat and cryptocurrency, and because all of the arbitration and all of how like the big companies are using, like big hedge funds are using stablecoins to be able to buy and sell other cryptos and make tons and tons and tons of profit on it. This is why the federal government's trying to get in front of it. So her meeting was around all of this, where she was just saying, look, we've got to start regulating this. We've got to get involved in all of this. Fast forward a little bit more. And here you go. This is from Accounting Today. And they are reporting crypto tax reporting changes may lead to an IRS crackdown. So there's also this element of like, well, how are people using crypto, and are they cashing out in ways that we don't know? And if they're cashing out in ways that we don't know, we don't have capital gain potential, capital gains tax potential, I should say. And that scares them, right? That's a huge it's multi-billion-dollar industry, of course, around exchanges and tax trading and all this kind of stuff that the government wants to know that they have insights into this. Now, here's the deal with this. All of the reputable exchanges, the ones that I cover on this channel and many that you use, like Kraken, Coinbase, Gemini, so many of them that are out there that are in the US are regulated. And they do have the ability and are required to publish an anti-money laundering and policies, all that kind of stuff that goes around how they handle that, and publish to the government, those that buy and sell crypto, so that they can be taxed. So we're seeing additional news around all this where the government's saying, well, we want additional insights into all of this. And that should be pretty scary to most of us. So definitely take a look at this article and take a peek at it. And then we move forward. And this was the article that spurred my very first video around crypto regulation. This comes from the SEC acting commissioner, Gary Gensler. And so he calls stablecoins poker chips, like literally these things I'm gambling on that I'm hoping I'm going to make a lot of money on. And I guess to some degree, he's right. You are going to make a lot of money by storing crypto, for example, with Gemini. Or Coinbase, or BlockFi, or Celsius, which you guys know I cover a lot on this channel. Okay, so they see this in action. They see these high earnings of 8 to 10%, and they're like, well, that's way higher than a bank. We got to do something about that. And so you can see all this around. He calls them a speculative asset class. He may not be totally wrong on all of that, but this is what spurred my last video. So this right here is really what all comes back to this executive authority. All of these things have been in motion. All of these things have been really coming together for the government to finally do what Elizabeth Warren called for, accelerating a review of cryptocurrency and have it have an aspect on the stability of the financial system. Okay, so how is all of this going to impact someone like you or me? Well, we don't know yet, right? We have to see what happens in both the executive order, and we have to see what happens in terms of what's going to occur in terms of how the government brings all this to bear. But here's my thoughts on it. If the government is smart, which I know you're like, well, you lost me there, Wes. But if the government is smart, what they're going to do is slow, methodical regulation. It's going to be focused around insights into behaviors that could look for financial fraud, and making sure that there's good reporting and stability in the exchanges of the world that set these things up, and give better clarity on what is a security and what is not a security, which I know is kind of deep for this video, but we need to see the federal government give a lot of better clarity. And what we also need to see is the government should continue to be petrified, scared of hampering innovation. So much innovation in the crypto space is coming out of the US. Not all, by any means, not all. But we should continue, in my view, I very strongly believe that innovation should continue to happen inside of the US. An overbearing regulation will completely kill that. You look at what happened with a lot of banks. You know, one bank is like another bank these days. Have you noticed that? Like, you don't see a lot of differences, especially in the retail market side. And the reason for that is because banks are so heavily regulated, there's not a lot of room for innovation. It's a complaint they've had for a long time. And I think crypto has this same risk. If the federal government regulates too heavily, we're going to see a stifling of innovation, and that innovation will not disappear. It'll simply go to new countries that don't have those burdens. So federal government, if you're listening to me today, first of all, you should nominate me as your cyber czar. I would gladly take the position and help steer federal regulation in terms of what's best for everybody. But if you're not going to elect me as the cyber czar, then perhaps you should be wise and simply take the advice of myself, who speak for many, many others, and say, regulate where you must. We understand that's going to happen. We've always understood that's going to happen, but also recognize that you can't shut down crypto. You can't. You may want to, but you can't. It's innovative. It's distributed in its nature. It's encrypted. It has so many features that literally it was built from the ground up to be government proof, is the best way I know how to say it. So try to wrap your arms around it in a way that gives you the things that you need, but give it freedom to continue to innovate and change the world as we know it, because crypto is absolutely doing that. So there you have it. Is it a bombshell? Not really. I guess it's a bombshell in the sense that it's the first executive order around cryptocurrency, but there's probably gonna be a lot more coming. So that's not a big deal to me, but I am very interested to see what happens. And I'm telling you, my friends, regulation is on the way. We are very close. It is very imminent for us, but let's hope, let's share, let's collaborate and communicate of what we think we need to see happen. And you can even reach out to your individual senators and others that have authority and influence and lend your voice. And I think that's a smart and wise thing to do. All right, my friends, I'd love to know what you think about all of this. Are you worried about the regulation that's coming? How do you think it'll impact you in your daily life? Give me some comments down below. I'd love to know what you think. And hey, while you're here, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon. It goes a long way for this channel. It really does. Share this with any friends that you'd like to see the video. Share it out on your social media by all means. And lastly, thank you to Celsius for sponsoring today's video. Just go check in the description down below the referral code. Would love for you to take that if it's right for you. But of course, as always, my friends, do your own research and make sure that you make the decisions that are wise for you, and don't listen to YouTubers like me. If you do that, you're going to go broke. So do your own research and don't take this as financial advice. All right, my friends, until next time, thank you guys so much.